To honour Coco's 40th anniversary, I've decided to create a dedicated video focusing on its release, history, and the myth of Coco Chanel. I'll explore why this fragrance was chosen to embody and immortalize her legacy. I'll discuss why Coco is considered and marketed as the most Baroque and Byzantine of Chanel fragrances. If you're interested in perfume history, please continue watching. To give you some context, Coco was released in 1984 and Lagerfeld became creative director of Chanel in 1983. In 1984, Jacques Polge, Chanel's in-house perfumer, created Coco. According to various websites, it was released in two concentrations, the eau de toilette and the Perfume, which is also known as extrait de parfum or pure perfume in English. However, most people are only familiar with the eau de parfum, which followed in 1986, 2 years after the initial launch. In the 1991 TV advert featuring Vanessa Paradis, entitled L'Esprit de Chanel, the Spirit of Chanel, the brand makes it clear that Coco is a fragrance that represents Coco as a person who passed away but lives on in form of a beautiful oriental fragrance. The choice of scent profile was not coincidental. Coco had a deep appreciation for the Orient and often drew inspiration from various aspects of Eastern culture in her designs and creations. She had a fascination with Eastern aesthetics and was known to collect various pieces of art and artifacts from all over the world that she displayed in her Paris apartment. She liked to integrate Eastern influences in as many designs as possible. For example, she incorporated elements like jade and lacquer into her jewelry designs. The combination of black lacquer resin and gold, the same color palette used for Coco, was utilized in numerous pieces of Chanel costume jewelry. If we take a closer look at her 31 Rue Cambon apartment, we immediately notice that Chanel loved interior design and she also loved symbolism. She loved to surround herself with items and artworks that inspired her, and these items then became part of her aesthetic and even influenced her philosophy of life. Camellias symbolize longevity in Asia. The camellia became a symbol that represents Chanel as a person, but it also represents the brand. She also loved her antique coromandel lacquered screens from China. She also loved crystals and lions because her astrological sign was a Leo. She had all of her books wrapped in deep red leather. Allegedly, the very first time she set eyes on a coromandel screen during the 1910s, she became infatuated. Now we can see that whoever designed the Coco bottle, I'm pretty sure it was Lagerfeld, so whoever designed it chose to execute it in black lacquer and gold to pay tribute to Coco's infatuation with Chinese lacquerware and also to create a beautiful artwork. And the Coco bottle is indeed a work of art. Isn't it stunning? So I personally definitely see the connection between black lacquered screens and the Coco bottle, but according to the Chanel website, the fragrance is supposed to express, quote, the intensity of Gabrielle's personality and her love of all things Baroque, end quote. So Chanel themselves market Coco as a Baroque fragrance, as an embodiment of Coco, who was a very complicated and even mythical person. And that's where the myth of Coco begins. This fragrance is just as complex and interesting. It's an amber spicy scent, but there's so much more to it. The EDT is lighter, brighter, more floral and more fruity than the EDP, although it's still an oriental. And every time you wear it, a different hidden facet of the scent reveals itself to you. Every time you wear it, you're a little closer to unlocking the mystery of Coco. She wasn't the most honest person. It's said that she often told stories about her past, making things up along the way, contributing to the myth. Very little is known about her early life, for example. She grew up in an orphanage, but then often tried to embellish the story and told it somewhat differently. Coco the fragrance, just like Coco the person, represents both simplicity and extravagance. It appears to be in a simple rectangular bottle, but the scent is very 80s, very excessive, very complex, and very Baroque in style. And this is the real paradox. The paradox about this fragrance and about Coco, the person. Despite loving a very pared-down style, she was equally fond of the Baroque style. The decor of her apartment was inspired by Baroque as well as Eastern aesthetics. She was also inspired by Byzance, by Byzantine art, by the city of Byzantium, today known as Istanbul. She released several Byzantine-inspired jewelry collections, so she was not only in love with Baroque and Oriental traditions, she also loved Byzantine aesthetics. And Venice was the city where it all began. Venice was under the rule of the Byzantine Empire for several hundred years, so the city is full of Byzantine art and architecture characterized by gold and mosaics, and Coco was really fascinated by Byzantine styles. She was known for wearing a signature chunky solid gold bracelet. But what's Coco's connection to Venice, you may ask? Well, after the love of her life, Boy Capel, had passed away, she sought solace in Venice, and she kept returning to Venice for years to come. According to L'Officiel magazine, Gabrielle returned from her trips to Venice with a revelation, a newfound passion for Byzantine art that would profoundly influence the aesthetic of her creations. She used it as a rich, bold source of inspiration that is reflected in her haute couture designs and extravagant jewelry pieces, which she layered together and wore like talismans. If you look at some of her collections from the 50s and 60s, you can see that her costume jewelry was quite large, very sophisticated, adorned with pearls and fake gemstones. Karl Lagerfeld very much continued this tradition. His jewelry from the 80s is very extravagant and excessive. You will often see chunky necklaces and bracelets, as well as very large Byzantine and Maltese crosses adorned with faux gemstones, because costume jewelry doesn't use real gemstones or precious metals. To return to the fragrance, Coco is the sort of fragrance you could easily wear with those showy and ostentatious jewelry pieces. To me, this fragrance definitely evokes the splendor of Byzantium. It evokes the Chanel fashion from the 1980s and 90s, purported as the golden era of Chanel, as well as the Baroque period. And all of these inspirations come together in this beautiful fragrance. You can wear it as a tribute, but you can also just enjoy it just like that. Because perfume is art after all, and art is to be enjoyed. And it's also open to interpretation. So do let me know what Coco, if you own it and if you love it, what this fragrance represents and evokes for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye.